The 2026 World Cup has only been underway for a few days, but the tournament has already claimed its first victim. In the 50th minute of Canada's match against Qatar in Vancouver, everything suddenly changed. One tackle, one sound, and the entire Canadian bench immediately realized that something very serious had just happened. After the match, head coach Jesse Marsch revealed that they could hear the sound of a bone breaking from the technical area. The player lying on the pitch was Ismael Koné, one of Canada's most important midfielders. Just minutes earlier, Canada had been enjoying a perfect night. They were comfortably in front. The crowd was celebrating. A place in the knockout stage was within reach. But then the match stopped being about the scoreline. It stopped being about the goals. It stopped being about the 6-0 victory. All attention shifted to a player being carried off the field on a stretcher. The 2026 World Cup had just witnessed its first heartbreaking moment, and it may become the story that fans remember far longer than any final score. To understand why this moment sent shockwaves across Canada, it is important to understand who Ismael Koné is. At just 23 years old, Koné is widely regarded as one of the brightest talents in Canadian soccer. He developed through the ranks at CF Montreal before moving to Europe to continue his career. That journey was not always easy. There were periods when his performances lacked consistency and he struggled to secure his place. But everything began to change during the most recent season. Koné rediscovered his form. He became more confident, more consistent, and many believed he was playing the best soccer of his career. That is exactly why Jesse Marsch placed so much trust in the midfielder ahead of the World Cup. Koné brought more than just energy to the middle of the field. He was also the type of player capable of making a difference in the biggest moments. What made this story even more significant was the fact that the 2026 World Cup was being played on home soil, a tournament that many Canadian players had waited their entire lives to experience. For Koné, this was supposed to be the greatest moment of his career. A young player, a national team on the rise, a World Cup at home. Everything seemed to be moving in the right direction, until a single challenge changed Canada's entire plan. Before the 50th minute, this was almost a perfect night for Canada. They were in complete control of the match. Jonathan David kept putting constant pressure on Qatar's defense. The crowd at BC Place was watching the kind of soccer they had been waiting years to see. Canada held a 3-0 lead at halftime. Things became even more comfortable when Qatar was reduced to 10 players early in the match. The gap in quality between the two teams became increasingly obvious. From the stands to the coaching staff on the bench, everyone could feel that victory was close. It was not just about 3 points. It was also a major opportunity for Canada to move into the knockout stage at a World Cup being played on home soil. The atmosphere inside the stadium was filled with excitement, belief, and hope. Fans were beginning to dream about a special run, a journey that could become the greatest chapter in Canadian soccer history. But soccer always finds a way to change everything in an instant. Just one moment, just one challenge that seemed completely routine, turned Canada's night of celebration into one of the most heartbreaking moments of the 2026 World Cup. In the 50th minute, Ismael Koné received the ball in midfield and played a simple pass to a teammate. The play seemed to be over, but it was not. Ahmed Madivo came charging in from behind. The challenge was late. Koné had no chance to avoid it, and no time to protect himself. Almost immediately, the reactions on the field revealed how serious the situation was. Canadian players instantly signaled for the medical staff to come onto the pitch. Some held their heads in disbelief. Others turned away, unable to watch. Even Madivo put both hands on his head, as if he understood exactly what had just happened. When the medical team rushed onto the field, the atmosphere changed completely. The cheers disappeared. Concern spread across every face in the stadium. Doctors quickly stabilized Koné's left leg before placing him on a stretcher. At the same time, emotions began to boil over. Players from both teams exchanged heated words. Arguments broke out around the area where Koné was receiving treatment. The referee did not need much time to make a decision. A straight red card. Qatar, already down to 10 men, was reduced to just 9 players. But by that point, the red card was no longer the main story. All attention was focused on Koné. Images from the stadium showed that many of his teammates were genuinely shocked. They understood that this was not an ordinary injury. A few hours later, the initial diagnosis was confirmed. Koné had suffered fractures to both his tibia and fibula. He was taken to the hospital for emergency surgery. The 2026 World Cup had just witnessed the kind of moment that no player, no coach, and no fan ever wants to see. As the medical staff completed their treatment, Ismael Koné was placed on a stretcher and carried off the field. That was when something special happened. The entire BC Place Stadium rose to its feet. Tens of thousands of fans applauded together, not to celebrate a goal, not to celebrate a victory, but to support a player going through the most difficult moment of his career. As he was being taken away, Koné still managed to raise his thumb toward the crowd. A small gesture, but one that touched many people, because no one knew when he would be able to return to the field. After the match, Jesse Marsch revealed that Koné had been taken directly to the hospital. His family was there with him. The Canadian coach even said he planned to visit his player immediately after finishing his post-match press conference. It was a moment that showed soccer is about more than winning or losing, more than tactics or standings. Sometimes, it is simply about the care and support shared between people chasing the same dream. And on that night in Vancouver, an entire stadium showed its deepest respect for a player who had just lost the chance to continue his World Cup journey on home soil. The game continued, but the emotions surrounding the match had completely changed. In the 64th minute, Canada was awarded a free kick. Nathan Saliba stepped up to take it. His shot curled past the wall, clipped the inside of the post, and found the back of the net. It was a beautiful goal. But what happened afterward was even more memorable. Instead of running toward the crowd to celebrate, Saliba raised both hands to form the number 8, Ismael Koné's jersey number. He then ran toward the technical area, picked up the shirt of his teammate who had just left the field, and held it high in front of tens of thousands of fans. The entire stadium rose to its feet once again. This time, the applause was even louder than before. It was not a celebration that had been planned, not a media message, but a genuine reaction from a team that had just watched a close teammate suffer a devastating setback. The moment quickly spread across social media, because it reminded people that behind the biggest matches in the world are real human beings. People who train together, fight together, and feel each other's pain when one of their own goes down. On a night when Canada scored 6 goals, this may be the image that fans remember the longest. Normally, the story could have ended there. But after the match, another detail began to emerge. According to Jesse Marsch, Ahmed Medivo personally went to Canada's locker room. His purpose was simple: to apologize to Ismael Koné. The Canadian coach confirmed that Medivo directly offered his apology to the player injured in the challenge. And Marsch also said he did not believe the Qatar player had intended to cause such a serious injury. That was the reaction of one individual. But the reaction from the Qatar camp was different. Throughout the chaos on the field, members of Qatar's bench repeatedly protested the red card decision. They believed the challenge did not deserve a dismissal. That disagreement only increased the tension. After the final whistle, the two technical areas remained involved in heated exchanges. Jesse Marsch and members of Qatar's coaching staff were seen arguing intensely. Although neither side wanted to reveal the details, footage from the stadium showed that emotions were still running high. What makes this story especially remarkable is the contrast between those reactions. One player accepted responsibility and apologized, while others continued to debate the referee's decision. That is why the discussion did not end when the match was over. Because this was no longer just about a foul. It had become a question of how people respond when a tragedy unfolds on the soccer field. When the final whistle blew, the scoreboard showed a 6-0 result. It should have been remembered as one of Canada's biggest victories in World Cup history. Jonathan David scored a hat-trick. Canada had virtually secured a place in the knockout stage. The home crowd witnessed a dominant performance on Canadian soil. But the feeling after the match was completely different. Because Canada understood that they had just lost one of the most important players in their squad. Ismael Koné is not the team's most prolific goal scorer, but he is a crucial piece in midfield, a player capable of carrying the ball forward, creating moments of magic, and connecting every part of the team's system. Jesse Marsch had built many of his plans around Koné's presence. Now, all of that must change. And time is not on Canada's side. The World Cup waits for no one. There are no extra weeks to make adjustments. No long series of friendly matches to experiment with new solutions. Every mistake can lead to elimination. That is why this injury goes far beyond a single match. It could impact Canada's entire World Cup journey. A 6-0 victory will always be a memorable result. But sometimes, soccer produces nights when the victory is not what people remember most. And for Canada, this may be one of those nights. The World Cup is built on moments of triumph, decisive goals, historic celebrations, dreams becoming reality. Those are the images FIFA wants the world to see. But soccer has always had another side, a side that rarely appears in promotional videos. And the night in Vancouver was the clearest reminder of that reality. A single moment can change an entire career. A single challenge can erase years of preparation. Ismael Koné had waited for this World Cup for almost his entire life. So had Canada. This was the first time the country had hosted the biggest soccer tournament on the planet. Everything had been prepared for a memorable summer. But now, one of the biggest stories of the tournament is a devastating injury. That is the reality of the World Cup. The pressure is greater. The pace is faster. The emotions are stronger. And sometimes, the consequences are more severe. FIFA does not want the 2026 World Cup to be remembered for moments like this. But they are part of the tournament, a part that cannot be avoided. Because behind the packed stadiums and spectacular ceremonies are players made of flesh and blood. And sometimes, it is the heartbreaking moments that stay with fans the longest. Many years from now, people may forget the score of this match. They may forget that Canada won 6-0. They may forget that Jonathan David scored a hat-trick. They may even forget how far Canada advanced at the 2026 World Cup. But it will be very difficult to forget what happened to Ismael Koné. People will remember the moment an entire stadium rose to its feet and applauded. They will remember the image of a player giving a thumbs up as he was carried off the field. They will remember Nathan Saliba holding the number 8 jersey high in front of tens of thousands of fans. And they will remember the silence that fell over BC Place just minutes after it had been celebrating. These are the moments that remind us soccer is about more than results, more than trophies, more than the numbers on a scoreboard. It is also about the people behind it all. The 2026 World Cup has only just begun, but the tournament has already claimed its first victim. Now, the biggest question is whether Canada can continue its journey without Ismael Koné. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And do not forget to subscribe for more of the biggest stories from the 2026 World Cup